Strategy at Fundstrat. He joins me now at Post 9. Mark, good to see you.
Thanks, Mike.
Energy, I mean, maybe people kind of really loved it a lot 6 months ago.
Right.
Questioning it right now, obviously had a rough go. What are you seeing that suggests a little cyclical low here?
I guess three different things. One is a cycle composite that I developed that looks at energy and WTI crude over the last 20 years, and that is close to bottoming in the short run. It looks like we're going to get a pretty decent lift during a seasonally very bullish time for energy. Second is that a lot of these energy ETFs and actually crude itself have gotten oversold in the short run. There's been a lot of pessimism in general towards the market, and we look at, from what I hear from a lot of the fundamental sources, that oil demand is set to pick up pretty sharply in the second half of the year by potentially as much as 2.5 million barrels a day. Mm-hmm. So all those combined to suggest that energy is looking increasingly like a very good risk reward at a time when everybody wants to avoid it.
Does it seem like the kind of thing that is going to reassert leadership, or you feel like it's just got a comeback in it here?
That is difficult to say technically just yet, only because we've seen such weakness since November. Crude oil has given back all of its gains, really, for 2022. So that part is going to take some time, but I do feel confident that we're going to get a decent lift between now and summertime, yeah.
What about more broadly in how the market has managed to at least kind of hang in there in the face of this banking stress and some damage below the surface perhaps, but the indexes are hanging in there?
A lot of that is 100% due to technology and to its credit being the largest sector. So for the first time in a while, we've seen a lot of sectors really start to roll over in the past couple months. And that is troublesome when you look at performance of industrials, materials, certainly financials being third highest in the S&P. Tech, to its credit, is held in there, and it's not just the FANG. It's a lot of semiconductors and many other parts of tech. So if you see a broad-based rally in technology, yes, that does have the potential to carry markets higher or keep them resilient in the face of bad news, particularly when everybody is pessimistic.
Does it seem like that's poised to happen? I mean, I guess there's a couple of contrasting views on that. One is that while the NASDAQ relative to the average stock has had another one of these big runs of outperformance, it looks kind of stretched. On the other hand, as you say, semis, things like that, looking like they're in decent shape.
If we can get some stabilization in the financials group at a time when tech is still doing well, I would argue that everybody who's a naysayer, and when technically stocks are hitting multi-month highs and big percentage stocks like Apple, Microsoft, Meta, then normally it's time you want to double your position and not listen to the naysayers. Things are going well for a reason, and the market is typically one of the best economists that any of us know. So.
That being the case, what's your broader read on where we are field position-wise, right? You have the October low, S&P is up like 12%, but still kind of hasn't quite gotten free of the lower end of that range.
I understand. I think the events in the last month give me a little bit of concern that if we don't see sharp rebounds out of financials and energy and industrials and particularly healthcare soon, that it could be setting up potentially for a challenging maybe 4 to 6 weeks. I'm still quite bullish between now and the end of the year. My target is 4,500. I think we might have to get through a little bit of a choppy second quarter, but sentiment is right now so negative across the board that if tech is acting well, it really makes me want to participate. So with regards to your ball game thinking, I think we're potentially through the fourth inning. We've seen a bear market, and my thinking is we're going to have a pretty decent bounce in the next couple of years before potentially we see a late decade, potentially a pullback. So I think that the recession potentially could be postponed. It probably can't be avoided completely, but for this year and next year, I'm clearly in the no landing. I think that hopefully this banking crisis won't be systemic. I think we've seen evidence of mismanagement and this and that. I think we're hopefully, with interest rates having come down sharply in the last couple months, that is a big positive for the banks that a lot of people aren't talking about.
For sure. I was talking earlier about how, not to say this is a prediction, but there's enough history of an October low, and then in March you have a little bit more anxiety and you kind of get down to or near the low, and then it's been a recovery from there. I mean, you don't want to be too specific about that it's going to happen again, but it's interesting.
Typically, bear markets in the second year of a decade almost always bottom out in February or March of the third, and that's according to W.D. Gann from 100 years ago. So there is some thinking that this might happen. And seasonally speaking, in a pre-election year, we're in one of the most bullish times of any of the four-year cycle. So I like trusting the seasonals at a time when people are negative and I have tech acting well. And if I can see a little bit more strength out of healthcare, I think, and financials have a better than expected bounce, that will certainly put the market on better footing.
All right, Mark, great to catch up with you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks so much. All right, up next.